I am Tanya, and this is the Midnight Creak. Today, we're taking a journey to a place steeped in centuries of history, dark legends, and, apparently, a fair few restless spirits. We're talking about the Spaniards Inn, nestled right on the edge of Hampstead Heath. I'm thrilled to be joined by my incredible panel today. Mark, Sarah, Andrew, thanks for being here. If you like our content, please subscribe.
Thanks for having us, Tarnia. The Spaniards Inn, it's one of those places that just oozes atmosphere, doesn't it? Even if you're not a believer, you can't deny the sheer weight of history there.
Absolutely, Mark. I mean, dating back to 1585, it started as a toll house, for goodness sake. Just imagine the stories those walls could tell, the people who've passed through. It's not just old, it's ancient by London standards, and that's precisely why it's so fascinating.
Fascinating is an understatement, Sarah. For paranormal enthusiasts, the Spaniards Inn is practically a pilgrimage site. The sheer volume and variety of reported activity there is just staggering. It's not just one ghost, it's a whole ghostly ensemble.
A ghostly ensemble! I love that, Andrew, and it truly is. So let's dive into some of these legendary figures. You can't talk about the Spaniards Inn without mentioning one of England's most infamous highwaymen. Mark, do you want to kick us off with the legend of Dick Turpin?
Oh, Dick Turpin, the ultimate anti-hero, right? Legend has it he used the Spaniards Inn as a hideout. Preying on wealthy travelers crossing Hampstead Heath, then disappearing into the inn for a pint and a quick getaway. It just fits the image perfectly, doesn't it? This lone, daring figure on a magnificent horse.
And there's even a story that his father was the landlord there. Can you imagine? Oh, just popping out for a spot of highway robbery, Dad. Be back for supper. It adds such a personal, almost domestic touch to the legend, making it even more vivid.
But what's really compelling are the sightings. People, both visitors and staff, have reported seeing a shadowy rider on horseback, often late at night outside the pub, always on Spaniards Road, and of course they believe it's Turpin, returning on his legendary horse Black Bess. I mean, phantom hoofbeats? That's just next-level creepy.
Phantom hoofbeats! Can you imagine being there on a quiet night and hearing that? It sends shivers down my spine just thinking about it. It's not just a visual, it's an auditory haunting, which somehow feels even more immersive, doesn't it?
Yeah, I suppose the sound is harder to dismiss as, oh, just a trick of the light. A galloping horse, especially when there's no horse to be seen, that's a tough one to rationalize away, even for a hardened skeptic like myself.
It grounds the legend in a tangible, if invisible, reality, and it speaks to the idea that these historical figures, especially those with such dramatic lives and deaths, can leave an indelible mark on a place. Turpin was such a larger-than-life character, it makes sense he'd still be riding around.
Precisely. And the fact that people are consistently reporting it across different generations, different staff members, different patrons, it's not just one person making it up. There's a shared experience, a collective memory almost, of his presence.
It's incredible. But Turpin isn't the only Dick associated with the inn, is he? Sarah, tell us about the much more unsettling Black Dick.
Ah, Black Dick. Now this is a different kind of haunting altogether, much darker, much more intimate in a way. He was a moneylender, apparently, and met a rather unfortunate end right near the inn, struck by a horse and carriage. And unlike the dashing highwayman, his presence feels much more disruptive.
Disruptive is the perfect word. We're talking sudden cold spots, which are classic indicators of spirit activity. But then it gets really personal. Invisible hands tugging at sleeves, that undeniable feeling of someone brushing past you in an empty room. It's not just observing a ghost, it's interacting with it, even if you can't see it.
So you're saying I might get my arm tugged while trying to order a pint? I'm not sure I'm prepared for that kind of customer service, though I have to admit, the idea of an invisible brush past, that's a bit unsettling. It plays on our sense of personal space.
Exactly, Andrew. It's less about a grand apparition and more about those subtle, Did that just happen? Moments that make you question your sanity. And apparently, Black Dick likes to hang around the bar area, which makes sense for a moneylender, I suppose, keeping an eye on the transactions.
It suggests a very earthbound spirit, someone still very much tied to their earthly concerns. Not some grand, tragic figure, but perhaps someone consumed by their dealings, even in death. It's a very human kind of ghost in a way.
And that's often what makes for the most persistent hauntings: unfinished business, a sudden, violent death, a strong attachment to a place or profession. Black Dick ticks all those boxes. It makes perfect sense that he'd still be working the room, so to speak.
So we've got the daring highwayman and the lingering moneylender. But the Spaniards Inn also has a much more romantic, albeit tragic backstory, involving two brothers and a deadly duel. Tanea, can you fill us in on the Spanish brothers?
Oh, the Spanish brothers, Francesco and Juan Pereiro. This is a classic tale of love, jealousy, and fatal rivalry. They supposedly owned or managed the inn at some point, and both fell for the same woman. You can see where this is going, right? It escalated, as these things often do, into a duel right outside the pub, and sadly Juan was killed and buried nearby. A truly Shakespearean tragedy unfolding right there on Spaniards Road.
It's such a powerful narrative, these historical love triangles always resonate, and the idea that Juan, killed in such a sudden, violent way over a matter of the heart, would still be wandering the grounds, especially the garden where the duel likely happened, is just incredibly poignant.
So, a male apparition, you said, wandering the garden? I mean, it's a lovely garden, but to be stuck there for centuries because of a bad breakup, that's rough. Though I guess if you're going to haunt anywhere, a historic pub garden isn't the worst spot.
Ha! A ghostly silver lining, Sarah. And it's not just Juan, is it? This tragic love triangle might also be linked to another famous resident, the White Lady. Tarnea, what can you tell us about her?
The White Lady. Every self-respecting haunted location needs a white lady, right? Patrons have described seeing a woman in flowing white clothing drifting silently through the garden at night. The key word being drifting, not walking, not running, just gliding. And then she just vanishes into the darkness. Some people connect her to the Spanish brothers' tragic love story. Maybe she was the woman they both loved, or perhaps a grieving relative.
Or, and this is where it gets really intriguing, she could be an entirely separate spirit. The grounds themselves are ancient, near Hampstead Heath. Who knows what other tragedies or forgotten figures are tied to that land? It adds another layer of mystery. Is it one story or many interwoven? A woman in white, always classic. It's almost picturesque if you ignore the whole ghost aspect. I wonder if she's looking for something or just reliving a moment. Is it a loop, or is she conscious of her spectral state? These are the questions that keep me up at night.
Those are excellent questions, Mark. The consciousness of a ghost is a whole other podcast topic. But let's move inside the pub, because it's not just the grounds that are active. Andrew, what kind of general paranormal activity have people experienced within the inn itself?
Oh, inside is a hive of activity. We're talking classic poltergeist-style phenomena and more. Unexplained footsteps when no one's there, disembodied voices, sometimes whispers, sometimes full-blown laughter echoing through empty rooms, and of course, the ever-popular doors moving on their own. You know, you turn your back for a second, and a door that was shut is now ajar, or vice versa. It's that constant low-level reminder that you're not alone.
And it makes perfect sense, doesn't it? When you have a building of that age, with such a rich and often violent history, it's like the very stones absorb the energy. Paranormal investigators always point to these factors. All that emotion, all that drama, just imprinted on the fabric of the building.
Right, so it's not just ghosts, it's residual energy, like a very old, very active battery, constantly discharging memories. I mean, I'm always looking for a logical explanation, and residual energy sounds a bit like magic, but I get the idea of a place having a feel to it. The Spaniards Inn definitely has a feel.
It definitely does. And adding to that incredibly eerie atmosphere are its literary connections, which I find absolutely fascinating. Sarah, can you tell us about some of the famous writers who had links to the Spaniards Inn?
Oh, it's a roll call of literary giants. Charles Dickens, John Keats, Bram Stoker, all had connections. Imagine sharing a pint in the same place Dickens might have sat, observing the patrons, gathering inspiration. And there's a lovely legend that Keats actually wrote parts of Ode to a Nightingale in the garden of the Spaniards Inn. How poetic is that? A romantic poet surrounded by history, possibly even by ghosts, creating something so beautiful.
And then you have Bram Stoker, the master of horror, whose iconic novel Dracula is also associated with the inn. I mean, think about that. A place so steeped in dark history and chilling folklore, inspiring one of the greatest vampire stories of all time. It's like the inn itself is a character in these narratives, a muse for the macabre.
Well, that just makes it even cooler, doesn't it? It's not just a pub, it's a piece of living literary history. I can totally see Dickens observing the characters, Keats being inspired by the garden's tranquility and maybe a hint of melancholy, and Stoker soaking in that ancient, somewhat sinister vibe for Dracula. It adds a whole new layer of depth to the experience, even if you don't encounter a ghost.
It really does. It's a pub that's not just haunted by spirits, but by the echoes of brilliant minds too. So, considering all of this, the ancient woodland setting, the highwaymen legends, the deadly jealousy, the centuries of reported paranormal encounters, what do you think makes the Spaniards Inn such a uniquely rich and enduring haunted location in London folklore?
For me, it's the sheer density of stories. It's not just one isolated incident or one simple ghost story. You have layers upon layers of historical drama, violent deaths, unrequited love, and notorious figures. Each tale intertwines, creating this incredibly potent psychic tapestry. It's almost like a focal point for all the energy that's ever passed through that part of London.
I agree with Tarnia, and the fact that it's still a functioning pub, still a place where people gather, eat, drink, and tell stories, means those energies are constantly being refreshed in a way. It's not a dusty museum, it's a living, breathing connection to the past, allowing those old tales and presences to persist in the present. It keeps the folklore alive, literally.
I think it's the mix of the grand and the mundane. You have highwaymen and duels, but also just a moneylender who died nearby. You've got the literary giants next to the local staff who still report strange things. It's relatable history. It feels like you could be there, sitting in a chair, and suddenly bump into a ghost or hear a distant hoofbeat. It's not some far-off, inaccessible castle. It's a pub. That makes it more unsettling, more immediate.
That's a fantastic point, Sarah. It's the accessibility of the history, the folklore, and the supernatural that makes it so compelling. It's not just a story, it feels like an ongoing experience. Whether you're a believer or a skeptic, there's something about the Spaniards Inn that just pulls you in and makes you wonder.
And I think that's why places like the Spaniards Inn continue to fascinate us, right? They offer a glimpse into a past that isn't quite ready to stay in the past. They're a reminder that history isn't just in books, it's in the very air, the very walls around us, especially in an old city like London. It challenges our perceptions of reality and leaves us with a sense of wonder, or perhaps a healthy dose of fear.
Absolutely. It reminds us that there's so much we don't understand, so much just beyond the veil of our everyday experience, and places like the Spaniards Inn are those perfect thin spots where that veil feels almost transparent.
And it encourages us to engage with history not just as facts and dates, but as living, breathing narratives, full of passion, tragedy, and enduring human and inhuman spirit. It's a pub, but it's also a portal.
A portal? Well, I'm certainly thirsty after all this talk of ghosts and highwaymen. I might just have to brave those phantom hoofbeats and cold spots for a pint there soon. You know, for research purposes.
For research purposes, of course, Andrew. And if you do, let us know if you hear any disembodied laughter or get your sleeve tugged. That brings us to the end of another captivating episode of the Midnight Creak. A huge thank you to Mark, Sarah, and Andrew for sharing their insights into the chilling legends of the Spaniards Inn. And thank you, our listeners, for tuning in. Until next time, stay curious and stay afraid.